Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Good morning, Doug.
What's up, party people?
It is a wonderful day to be in the neighborhood. It's a wonderful day to be alive, and it's winter like in central Indiana.
Yeah, it is. My brother is, he calls himself, he's a real entrepreneur, but one of the things he titles himself as a clothier, which I don't even know that, like, there might be like 3 of those people in the United States, clothiers.
Well, the old term is haberdasher.
Yeah. And so when I see Will in the wintertime, he wears this coat that if he had brothers, like, who was it? Was it Joseph?
Oh, the coat of many colors.
I mean, they would have thrown him in a ditch. And so it's nice to have some warm clothes, is what I'm saying.
I have my felt lined pants on today, so I understand that completely.
And props to a clothing company. Can I say this? American Giant. This is a recommendation. We're normally not allowed to give recommendations. American Giant makes these like American-made sweatshirts and flannels and stuff like that. And my wife got me a American Giant sweatshirt for my birthday. I ate some spaghetti or something. The first day I wore it, I stained it. And Caroline emails him and says, "Hey, what's the best way to get this stain out?" And they say, it's on there. But you know what they did? They hooked her up with a gift card and responded. A actual person responded.
A human.
Human.
What a novel idea.
And so one of the books we read back in the day, I've been working with Keith for 21 years or so, and we used to read books. And one of the books we read, it talked about just going big for your customer, for your client. And American Giant, they went big for us. So I really appreciate them.
Yeah, I think my friend Larry May gave a book to me like that for one of our book club meetings then. And I don't know I can't recall the title, but I know the whole idea is we're supposedly a service culture. And you have to go a long way to find service in most situations, I think. And it's an interesting idea that it doesn't take a lot to set yourself apart as a good service provider these days, which is, it's not really a compliment. It's just, it is what it is. Like you all that are watching, what company comes to mind besides Gimbal Financial when you think of a service company? What comes to your mind that fast, right?
Yeah, like an American Giant. I think it was it called Hug Your Customers or something like that?
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds
And one of the standouts in that book was Nordstrom. And there was a guy, he was a manager at Nordstrom, and a lady brought in a set of snow tires that she just wasn't happy with. And so she brings in these snow tires, and he gladly gives her store credit for bringing in the snow tires that she was unhappy with. And that is such a beautiful picture. You can just imagine it. A lady coming in with a set of snow tires, rolling them in there. I don't even know how she got them in. Hey, come out to my trunk. She probably had like a 1967 Buick that could fit a set of 4 snow tires in it or something. Pontiac Catalina. I don't know.
Yeah, that book was written by Jack Mitchell, and it just pushed the envelope because customer service may be a little obsolete. I think, like the internet, texting and things. I had a charge that I thought was a scam on my debit account, my savings account, and I ended up spending an hour on it, and it was with a large technology company for which you could do your books in your business, for example, without saying anything unkind about a company. And they had renewed this software for which I didn't ask them to renew for almost $1,100 on my account. and no explanation or anything. And it took me an hour to track it back down. And I was like, I don't really like the way you do customer service.
They were trying to save you time. They didn't want to give you an explanation, save you some time. No, maybe we're shopping in the wrong areas. Maybe there are these places with great customer service.
Yeah. There are. I experience them, and I usually will tell them, like, we're going to do a show from one of those in a couple of weeks, the Neiman Harvest Market in Carmel. We're going to have a conversation with the store director there, and I just like it because I feel like they care that I'm there, and they provide good service. And it's where I bought my Amish raised turkey, who was out running in the farm just a week before. He was smoking on my smoker.
My smart aleckness is really kicking in right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I'm just picturing this turkey being raised in Napanee or something. But anyway, our good friend Don taught me something. He taught me a quote, and it's "You'll be the same person you are today in 5 years, except for the books you read and the friendships that you make." And that's Charlie Tremendous Jones. And so we got all these books out here. These books are important to you?
Yeah, I used to pride myself in my personal library. I had a little like it was like a paper hole punch thing that had like a press in there that would put your name on the pages. Did you know this?
Man, did you have like a oak or a hickory library with like a ladder that slid back?
I did,
or what? Is that what you had in mind?
When I was in my 20s,
bunch of brass.
When I was in my 20s, I envisioned myself being. I never said this out loud, so you guys are.
This is a safe place.
Yeah, I thought. Which one of those? I was in one of those mansions somewhere. I can't remember. I think it was what's the one in North Carolina? The Vanderbilt. That mansion.
I don't know.
Whatever it is. I was in there.
You know, Libby?
The Biltmore. Yeah, I was in the Biltmore in their library, and they had those ladders, and I was like, oh, that
was my dream.
Yeah. And then one day I realized I just don't have time to reread these books. Why am I keeping them? And so the books that were okay, that were on my bookshelf, I just started giving goodwill. The books that I thought would help somebody, I would give them to them. And the books that I thought, you know what, I'll keep them on my bookshelf to loan to people because they're worth recycling. Those are kind of the books I've kept on my
bookshelf. You were going to buy 100 of a book, do you have something in mind that you could just pass out like this? Just enjoy passing it out for Christmas presents or for just it's Thursday afternoon.
One's called Lifetime Guarantees. I don't remember if it's plural or not, but it was a life changer for me. I had a copy and I loaned it out, and so it's not on my bookshelf, but it's written by Bill Gillham, and I'd highly recommend that. It's a game changer if you're struggling with how you view the world. But yeah, I've probably given away. If I haven't given away 100,
you have to have a cup of coffee with that book.
Just like take your time.
No, you got to want to read it.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's deep.
It affected me significantly. He was talking about how to operate this body properly, and he was talking about how I remember when I read it the first time. He was talking about how he would annoy his wife by leaving the closet door open. It was just a little thing, and that he could, by the power of his spirit inside of him, direct his body to do the things it needs to do. And while I'm sitting there in bed reading it, I look out the corner of my eye, and my closet door's open. I laid the book down and walked over and closed the door because I knew it would annoy Connie. So yeah. How about you?
I don't think we've ever had our closet door closed. I'm going to have to ask Caroline about this now. Yeah.
I don't know if that bothers Connie after 5 kids, though. We were newlyweds then.
Yeah.
That's what would you give away?
Oh, Caroline and I, we're on the same page with this one. We've bought a lot of copies of Love Does. And Love Does is just one of those books that make you smile and encourages you. It's something that our sons have been read to. I don't know if they've read it, but we've read it to them. And Bob Goff's Love Does is a very just heartwarming book, and same kind of different as me. by Ron Hall. It's a story about him and his family meeting a guy, Denver Moore, and they both invested in each other. It's just a beautiful book. We've bought a lot of copies of that one.
Man, I wonder if we should bring Bob Goff back. I really like he's an energizing speaker. He's a busy man. I don't know if that'll happen, but yeah, his book was pretty influential, and I think it's helped a lot of people. Like that book has helped a lot of people.
It's given people permission to have joy in their life.
Right. And the idea of us being entrusted with your money to help you manage that component of your life is such an honor. I don't know that we could ever explain what that really means to us, but the responsibility I know I personally feel for you and your friends is, what good is that money if you don't use it to live your best life? I was reading a quote this week that said, I got to double check that I say this right, that the only money that is really yours is the money you spend. And I thought about that, and I was like, oh, wow. If we help people...
That's a really good... Where do you remember where you found that? That's really good.
That was in this book right here. The
nice.
Retirementality.
Yeah, that's really simple.
Yeah, and like if we help you accumulate a lot of money and you leave it in your estate plan, you never really had that money. Like it never did anything to you. And there's the greatest book ever written, the Bible. It says that you don't, like any money you don't use, you don't really
walk off.
It's what?
It can walk off.
Well, you don't even know what's going to happen to it. Like it's foolish to think that your heirs are going to spend it wisely. And so you put in all that heartache to accumulate it, and then it finds wings and flies away. It does all kinds of crazy stuff. And so, like, if we weren't encouraging you to live your best life, I think we would be overcharging you for giving you advice, because like just to accumulate wealth serves no real point. Yeah.
Well, Mitch is one of those guys that your life's better. Within that first 5 years or whatever that you read that book, that was a good one. That was an influential one.
This book, I like, if you read on the back of my business card, I'll put one of the top financial principles is to think differently. And that's just been a willingness in my own life to take situations and go, you know what, that doesn't seem right. I'm going to embrace this and look at it a little differently. And so in 1996, I really was thinking about my vocation. Like, is this what I do, a noble calling? Is this right? Because the idea that I was thinking back in 96 was, I am going to help people find financial independence, and I'm going to help them build wealth for retirement. And then I started thinking about historical perspective and things of that nature. And I'm like, financial independence is a mythological thing, is what I started thinking. I just hadn't had anybody to talk to talk to other financial advisors and say that's a foolish endeavor. Didn't seem, but I just started pondering that. And then I was presented with the challenge of growing a business at 25% a year for 5 years. And I was in a pretty responsible situation with a lot of opportunity with people I respected, but I had to tell them I couldn't do that. I'm not the man to do that. And I had to rethink everything that I was about at that point in time. And retirement was one of those things. And I did the math. And if I slowed down the pace that I was living, and then I worked longer, I probably wouldn't die in my 50s from heart failure, because I was having heart palpitations and such. And I probably would enjoy this journey called life better. And so then I started doing some number crunching and some other things on my spreadsheets. And I realized that if I didn't quit working with what we're told retirement is at 55, but I worked to 70, and I was using a 9% return, which you can't calculate. I just was too naive to know that. Essentially, the money that I had at 55, without adding another dollar to it, would almost triple or quadruple by the time I was 70. So that financial part of it would become much less of a component. And so that nobody had told me. But if also by working from 55 till 70, I'd cut my retirement years down by those 15 years, right?
Right.
So the math becomes a lot easier. But then I had to say, well, what do I do then? Like, how do I do this? Because everybody wants the most out of an employee. And so at that point, I defined retirement as doing what you want to do. And that came from a psalm that said, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So like what I want to do is what I can do to serve people the best. And so, and essentially in 1996, I retired. I decided that retirement was not a quantitative or a time-based thing. It was a mindset of how I want to live my life. Well, it wasn't a year after that I found Mitch's book, The New Retirementality, and I started reading the pages of it and was shocked. Like, I didn't know that there was anybody else back then thinking about it. He's had a big impact on our culture of financial advisors.
Yeah.
And he's really marketed this book to financial advisors to help them kind of help you and other people that are looking towards their senior years rethink what it's about. Because historically, retirement was defined to people by the financial services industry. So that's how this one came about.
In defining retirement, thinking differently through it, one of the advantages that we have is we get to see the lens of what people are doing in their lives. And I was thinking through several of our clients and relationships and what people have done in their 70s have really blown me away and inspired me. And one of my favorite YouTubers is in his 70s.
I love it.
And so, yeah, just doing stuff differently. Like, we've got a guy that we love and been friends with a long time, and he's a Costco sampler. And
cool.
he loves to compete. They rank the Costco sample. He likes to be number one.
I don't even know what that means, though. Like, how do you become number one?
I think you're pushing product. You're moving product. And so, yeah, there's just all types of inspiring things that people are doing. You know, one of our friends, what she's done is Meals on Wheels. And so it's not like you got to earn a paycheck or do something, but she is like the Meals on Wheels queen. And maybe she has a Prius or something. I don't know how she gets around to so many places, but there's just inspiring things that people are doing with their lives, and they're doing it differently than just retiring.
Yeah, and one of the things that Mitch mentioned in his thoughts in the book was a play check, and that's where you get paid to play kind of thing. And I know that a number of our clients have chosen to work at golf courses after they quit their primary role, and there they get to accomplish a hobby of theirs by golfing. They usually get benefits on the golf course. They get a social network because they've met the people that are working.
I wonder how long you have to work at a golf course until you can become the guy who gets to pick up all the range balls.
Ooh.
I mean, I love to smack that thing with my driver or whatever.
That's why I don't go to Topgolf that much, but that's why I will go, is to aim at that thing if I can hit it. Yeah. I don't know if they like you even being there doing that. Do they?
No, I don't think that's.
Yeah, that's really funny stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, what about your friend David Mallach? We got one of his books, Dancing with the Analysts, here.
David Mallach, super cool guy. He's a Merrill Lynch investment advisor out east. Great man. Keith and I visited him a few times, and he was very influential in extending courage to me to really no more excuses. Buck stops here, and helped us develop investment strategies. And so, David Mallach, interesting guy. He developed two systems, one for growth stocks, one for income stocks, and he creatively packaged those into novels. And so you talk about thinking differently. He was able to take a pretty boring topic, a pretty analytical topic, and make a great story, a great read out of it. And so, Dancing with the Analysts, that gave me permission to think deeply and move forward with courage in managing money.
David Mallach is still practicing. He has two of his sons in his practice with him, and he's out in the Philadelphia area, if I remember right.
Yeah. The other thing I like about David Mallach is on a personal level, he's been very successful, but he drove a Chevy Volt. He had a pretty fancy car too, but he told me, he said, you don't have to have a fancy car. You just have to have a clean car. And I always took that away. Like, hey, just take care of your stuff. I was encouraged.
That's really cool. Yeah. I've found that authors are often really generous with their time, and if you want to broaden your horizons and you take the initiative to track them down, that somebody who appreciated their writings, you can get some time with.
You ever got any time with Tim Ferriss?
Tim Ferriss,
4-Hour Workweek. This was his book that really launched him.
Yeah, I don't know. I would call him like a kind of a millennial guru kind of guy. I'm not sure exactly what you would call Tim Ferriss. He's like in the top of my head, the word pagan comes to mind. I don't know what you would. He is a very worldly man. He does these experiments with his body.
Oh yeah, on himself.
Yeah, that I wouldn't even dream of doing. But he does the experiment on his own body so he can give you the test results on it. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that is in his writing, but
and this is thinking differently, though.
Yeah,
the 4-Hour Workweek.
Yeah, and so like to think differently, you got to hang out with people that think differently than you sometimes.
Yeah,
and he thinks a lot differently than I do, but he's helped me. Like I've been anal on time management, but he's helped me rethink ways to do things better and to maybe get rid of things that aren't even kind of critical. Like Bob Goff doesn't have Thursdays; he gets rid of stuff.
Fires, yeah.
And so I really found his 4-Hour Workweek to be a profitable use of my time.
The thing I like about Tim Ferriss is he has an email and he would push out and basically say, these are the things I'm thinking about. And so it was an invitation to jump in and think about something that's a little different. And it's not like you have to make it your hobby or you have to make that thing your next big project, but just what are you thinking about? And he would record it.
Right. And he would send that thing out on Fridays. I was just looking at my inbox, see if it was.
What do you call it? 5-Minute Friday or
something like that. And I haven't looked at it, and maybe I'll start looking at it again this week because it would be thought-provoking things that you wouldn't maybe come up with on your own.
What about this one here? Reminiscence of a stock operator. If you love stocks, if you have an interest in stocks, this is probably the number one read.
And you can get it at half price books for $12, which is insane. Like Jesse Livermore made his fortune in the stock market crash in 1929. And a basic thing that taught me, Doug, is that you do not have to make money when the market's going up to make money. You don't have to be pessimistic when things are bad. You can just make money at any time. And so to dance to the beat of a different drum or to think differently, I think enables us to be better financial advisors because that's how he made his money. He made tons of mistakes. Like he ended up taking his own life because he never figured out some of the stuff in Mitch's books about what's the point of money if you don't have a purpose. And for my own financial plan, he's the one that convinced me in his writings to put some money in annuities. And, everybody's saying annuities are a bad thing, but I think you just need to understand what you're doing. And so that's one of the things that and he's been dead for almost 100 years, I bet.
The standout for me is he said, sometimes you just got to go fishing. And I'm not a fisherman, but it gives you the permission to take a break. You don't have to be all in all the time. You can take a break. That's all right. You can come back. There's always more.
Yeah. That book is really only if you're really curious, I'd say, about investing.
Yeah. If you're like really nerded out, you should read this. Right. If not, you should chat GPT the summary.
Yeah. If you say, I want to become an investor in individual stocks, that is a must-read book, right?
Speaking of which, what about this guy?
I felt like a little, like when you asked me that, I felt a little emotional.
Yep.
Like it's kind of weird.
I wrote a little obituary about him.
Yeah, and he has greatly influenced my career. I really feel bad that I really have only had time to embrace his thoughts, mainly the last 5 years, where I could really focus on it. And
now, 5 years ago, would have you said that? Yeah, I know this stuff.
I knew of it, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, like
you've been living it now.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to this. If part of what Mitch said is if you energize with what you're doing, you can do what you're doing longer, right?
Yeah.
And William O'Neill has energized me. As long as I am mentally capable, I just can't imagine not doing what I'm doing to help people. And O'Neill has really helped me. And I first discovered him in the mid 80s. There was a Fuddruckers in Houston, Texas, and they had, back in the day, like young listeners may don't even know what a newspaper is, but they had these things that you put money in it. And
if we have a young listener listening, that would just make my day.
Yeah, well, they had a door on these newspaper machines. You put the coins in, the door would pull up, and it was like spring loaded, right? And you could grab all of them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was an honor system, but not kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was a Investor's Business Daily one sitting in front of the Fuddruckers, and we loved their hamburgers. I don't know if I ever bought one, but I like, what is that thing? And I think he was putting them anywhere he could. But
my guess is, Keith, you were like, yes, I don't know if I can pay that 35 cents. So you read through the clear windshield of the newspaper thing.
Exactly. Well, he sold that thing. Well, he didn't sell it. His family sold the Investor's Business Daily to the Wall Street Journal a couple of years ago. Do you remember how much he did that for? I'll tell you here real quick.
He was truly an entrepreneur. He believed in the individual investor. He believed that a process, rules-based strategy could help the individual investor with risk and reward. And he also was just an amazing entrepreneur when he created the Investor's Business Daily newspaper. And he did it to compete against the Wall Street Journal.
Well, and he not only did it for that reason, he did it to get all the data to help him with his own investment.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, and we've met a number of his peers, people that he mentored,
including him. We've met him.
Yeah, and I've heard him say that the Investor's Business Daily lost money both, like 99% of the time. And I just looked it up. He sold, like his estate sold it for $275 million. How would you like for that? And it still has the caliber of content, and it's the title of a book that looks like a scam. Like when I read it,
How to Make Money in Stocks.
Yeah, it's
a winning system in good times or bad.
And if you go to a bookstore, if you ever do that anymore, if you go to that today, you'll see all kinds of books like that. Yeah. This dude did it.
This dude actually did it. And the other thing that's really cool is not only did he do it, but he's trained other people to do it. So it's a repeatable process.
And that really speaks to my soul, because a driving force of my personality for the last 30 years has been mentoring or discipling men and helping them see the world better. And that's how he did that. He did it one-on-one with people, but he would also invest his free time to groups of people. So if you are interested in,
that's kind of a nerd out book too.
I was going to say, you have to be a stock investor, but if you're saying, I want to buy individual stocks, you would greatly hurt yourself if you didn't read those.
Well, and I hope the takeaway, if you're listening to this, is, these are some of the books that are kind of nerd out stock books, but maybe you have something where you just are uniquely curious about it and no one else is. I would encourage you to find those people that are like you, maybe who are ahead of you. Maybe they were raised or they were doing their thing in the 20s, maybe it's the 80s, whatever, but read about them.
And who knows what you might discover, right? Like you might discover great things.
I don't know where you discovered the dangerous book for boys, but I remember you were all hot on this, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And you bought me a copy of this. And I really hope that my boys would say that I've allowed them to live dangerously.
Yeah. I get really excited to see your boys being boys, like they're young men now. But the whole idea of it just stirs my soul. Trying to look for the author of that book, The Wild at Heart.
Oh, John Eldridge.
John Eldridge, yeah.
That's a book that shaped me.
And so it goes parallel with that, Wild at Heart. Like, I don't know that Connie and I have been married 33 plus years, and I don't know that I've ever pounded the table and said, you need to do this, Connie. But I told her I don't know if it was when Caleb, I don't think it was when we were expecting, because we didn't know that Caleb, but when Caleb was born, I said, you just need to read this book, because men and women think differently. And if we had 4 daughters, Connie and me, and she had no idea even then how random I am. And so that Eldridge did a really good job at explaining how boys are wild at heart. And then this book seems like a parallel to it. It just tells, like, even if you're a 70-year-old man, it's probably worth reading. You might want to go do some of the things in there, don't you think?
Yeah, it's got great stuff.
Give an example.
Like launching rockets, building a wooden boat, just cool stuff that, guys should know how to do.
Yeah, I get excited.
Has some algebra in here, science in here, has some poetry in here.
Well, I give a shout out. I was telling stories to you earlier about my Uncle Bill, and my uncle did these kind of things, right? Like he was a gun collector. He flew the airplanes, and he just did all those kind of things. And the idea of a boy climbing a tree was pretty ordinary back when they ate horses in the 70s. And but like the little boys climbing trees seems like a random thing today, right? Like, it's so the randomness of letting boys be boys and girls be girls. I think that's a really cool thing. I think it's even, giving kids the Cabbage Patch doll or whatever is a cool thing. So that's the Gimbal December book review of some interesting books. What I would like, if you guys would participate with this, if you would shoot us a line of some books that maybe we should read in the new year, because I'm wide open to some really interesting authors and some ideas that will broaden my ability to think differently.
Yeah, plus that might help me with my Christmas list. If you guys send me some books that someone should read, I'll buy them for them, and then I'll have them give me a summary.
That's so awesome. Hey, you guys are just awesome for hanging out with us. We are just thankful to serve you, and we just hope that as you consider upping your average, that this is a worthwhile use of your time. And we'll be back with some great ideas for you next week. See you guys really soon.